Day 97 of the coronavirus crisis, day 12 of the civil unrest dealing with the aftermath of Mr. Floyd's murder. And this, my friends, is a dangerous combination, colliding crises, compounding each other. But our job is to address what is presented, and this is the reality that is presented, and this is what we will deal with. On the coronavirus situation, there's a lot to learn from what we just went through, and I believe it's a transformative situation for society and something we can really learn from going forward. Coronavirus was a medical issue, was a public health issue, was an economic issue, but more than anything, it was a social issue. It was about how people behave, right? And to address coronavirus, what we really had to do was change society. It was not a government operation. It was not something I could do governmentally. People had to do it. Government could provide leadership, and we had an operational component, but it was about people making the changes that had to be made. They had to accept it, they had to understand it, they had to change their behavior. That is a monumental undertaking, always. Social change. When does social change happen? Social change happens when people are presented with the facts, they understand the facts, they believe the facts, there's a plan forward based on the facts, and people care enough to make a difference. Compare that coronavirus situation to the situation we're in with the social unrest we see. People have seen Mr. Floyd's murder. They're watching what's going on the streets every day. And they're saying, enough is enough. And it's what they are seeing and what they know that is disturbing. And we're going to show you again, for those of you who haven't seen, a scene from Buffalo and a scene from New York City, because this is a story all across the state. This is Buffalo, New York yesterday. I just spoke with Mr. Gugino on the phone, who is that gentleman, who thankfully is alive. But you see that video, and it disturbs your basic sense of decency and humanity. New York should pass next week what we call the Say Their Name reform agenda. Say Their Name reform agenda comes from the long list of names of people who we have seen who have been abused by police officers, by the criminal justice system. And Mr. Floyd is just the last name on a very long list. Fine, enough is enough. Change the law, take the moment, reform. There are 4 cornerstones for our Say Their Name reform agenda. 1, transparency of prior disciplinary records of a police officer. If they're being charged and investigated for abuse, their prior disciplinary record is relevant. Chokeholds. We went through this with Eric Garner. Again, you saw it with Mr. Floyd's death, but we learned it first with Eric Garner and many, many other cases, by the way. Why? We've seen 9/11 calls, which are race-based false calls. A false 9/11 call based on race should be classified as a hate crime in the state of New York. We know that it's wrong for the local district attorney to investigate the police force from that county. By executive order, I did the Attorney General as an independent prosecutor. That should be codified in law. I did it 5 years ago. How do we change society to make these reforms happen? How do you have a new societal awareness? Can you do that? Can you change behavior to respect one another? You're darn right you can. We know we can because we just did it through this coronavirus in a very fundamental way. You changed people's fundamental behavior, whether or not they leave the house, whether or not they go to school, whether or not they go to work. They changed themselves. Remarkably fast and remarkably effective. We have the lowest number of deaths from coronavirus that we have had since this started. 42 deaths, the lowest number since we started. 8 weeks ago, we had 800. 8 weeks. 800 people die to 42 people die in 8 weeks. Amazing. How did you do that? I did nothing. The people of the state radically changed how they behaved. Look at that progress. Lowest number of hospitalizations to date in a matter of weeks. So we know we can change, and we know we can change dramatically. People are focused. We have a plan, and that's when social reform happens, when people are motivated and people are focused. That was the Civil Rights Act nationally. That was the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire, which changed labor rights in this nation. That was the environmental movement after Storm King. That was the revolution of LGBTQ rights after Stonewall. That's what we just saw in coronavirus, which will go down in history as one of the great transformational moments of society. And this is a moment to lead in terms of social change.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.